You're tuned in to The Andrew Lawton Show.
Last week, I spent a bit of time talking about the carbon tax and the Supreme Court's decision that the carbon tax is unconstitutional. And one point I raised in that discussion was Western alienation. Because the Alberta Court of Appeal found that the carbon tax was unconstitutional. Jason Kenney has been a very fierce opponent of the carbon tax, arguing that Alberta can look after itself, not just in this area, but in many others. One of the folks who has stepped up to the plate at the provincial level to drive these discussions is Paul Hinman. He is the interim leader of the Wildrose Independence Party, formerly a leader of the original Wildrose Alliance before it merged with the PCs to become the new United Conservative Party. But Paul Hinman has been trying to put forward a strong provincial-led and Alberta-led agenda that would drive a lot of these issues that Albertans are concerned about. This is my chat with Paul Hinman. When we spoke last time, it was in the summer at the last Freedom Talk, and we had just come off the Fair Deal panel, which I think gave some people some encouragement, although as we heard from MLA Drew Barnes, not quite far enough to what a lot of people were saying. We fast forward to now, we're closer to this referendum that's been promised. Where do you think the dialogue really is on independence? Where do you think it's going? Do you think it's moving in a good direction or a bad one?
Well, I think with COVID and the complications that's happened, we see the federal interference and the importance of a provincial government that'll stand up for the rights and the freedoms of Albertans. But it's quite obvious that Kenney is in, cahoots or part of the federal idea and the global idea right now that this is a terrible, vicious virus that's killing people, which it isn't. And again, so Albertans are very frustrated and hurt, especially in rural Alberta, and wanting the government to stand up for them and to end the lockdown.
When you're I don't want to say a single issue party, but when you're a party that's structured primarily around the idea of getting a better deal for Alberta, and you have all of these issues that are coming up, like lockdowns, like healthcare spending, like just general day-to-day government, how important is it for you, if at all, to stay focused on that independence movement? Or do you find you have to veer into all of these different areas when now the culture has moved to one where lockdowns need to be the pressing political discussion?
I think that what we really need to offer is real answers for Albertans, that they need good government. They need a better healthcare system. They need our education system. Government is failing Albertans in so many aspects right now. And again, too often it's about a right or a left issue, but having a good healthcare system isn't right or left. That's just good governance, and it's having a proper system in place, which we don't have. And probably COVID is shone the light on that more than anything, because all we hear the Premier say is that we got to protect our healthcare system. It's not about protecting Albertans. It's not about protecting the education. It's about protecting the healthcare system. Why? Because it's a failing system. It's not robust enough. He could have had a whole year that he could have been building more senior care facilities. He could have been training more nurses, could have been bringing in equipment, buying field tents if that's what it is. But the fact of the matter is our healthcare system has been at 100% for 20 years. And so they say we can't afford to have anybody sick because we don't have the capacity. We've had a year and billions of dollars spent and no capacity. It's as pathetic now as it was a year ago, only the people are worn out and exhausted because of the way they're operating the system.
I spoke with Premier Kenney in December, and he had said in that interview and in other public fora that he was quite proud of Alberta not going full lockdown like other provinces and having what he characterized as relatively laxer restrictions compared to other jurisdictions. Do you think there is any credit due there?
No.
Okay, well, that was clear, but why not?
Well, because, this is the problem and why a government needs to protect individuals. For him to use numbers, if you own a gym and you put your life's work into that, and you're told that you can't open that gym, have you done a good job? Has he protected the interest? I mean, he said in December 11th that I was wrong to pick winners and losers. It's not the government's job to say these are essential services and these aren't, especially when you see what he picked is even more disgusting. And so no, if you're failing, whether it's 2% or 15% because of partisan politics, that's a failure in my books. And there's way too many people that have been personally affected on this, and he can look at the numbers and say it's okay, but it's not. If you actually have a just society, we don't pick winners and losers and say, well, we're all in this together, but Andrew, you're the one who has to sacrifice. That's not right.
The former Wildrose Alliance and Wildrose Party had positioned itself to the right of the PCs. I think the way that the Wildrose Independence Party now is characterized is to the right of the UCP. I want to ask you if that's a reasonable characterization, because I would say that independence itself, just like you said about a good healthcare system, is not a left-right issue. And you know, there are people on the far left that might be very thrilled to say, yeah, we want to be able to have more socialism in Alberta or something like that. Do you find that there is a coalition that's spanning traditional political identity, or is this still a conservative movement?
I want to say as it continues to grow and people see government interference, and like for me, when you talk about the left or the right, it's more, do you want big government or do you want individual responsibility? And there's always those that are looking at big government, but we can look and even see here in Alberta, you know, centralized healthcare has failed. Centralized education system is not giving our children the education system they could have. And so when you're actually talking and looking about individuals, it's not left or right. This is about good government. This is taking the taxpayers' money and using it in a prudent way that we actually see the cost-benefit analysis and understand that this is going to be a better system. But what we see right now is just a growth of government and public services that seem to be shrinking, but government's growing and management's growing, and we're managing the managers. And so no, I don't really think it's so much as the left as the right as it is that, you know, if we use taxpayers' money well, if we have the how would you say it, the structure of healthcare and education to the benefit of every Albertan, that's where we can go. If the economy is booming, our education, our healthcare, our senior care, all of that will be improving. And so it's about, to me, it's kind of like an airplane. You got your right wing, you got your left wing. The right wing's your economy, the left wing's your social programs, and they balance out. As government, we spend what we bring in, and we can soar to new heights if we keep it balanced. But when you're running deficits, when you're doing all of this crazy stuff with the economy and shutting down different areas, it's just a matter of when the right wing's failing, we're going to go into a death spiral. And again, the social services are just eating up everything and undermining our future.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that you don't want to view it entirely as left versus right, but you know politics and you know political coalitions. So I guess the better way to ask it is, do you see support, and I know you're leading a young party relatively, but do you see support as coming from disenfranchised UCP voters, or do you also see people that have historically voted for the NDP, for the Liberal, for the Alberta Party? Do you see them as joining this? And if not, I guess the extension of that is, if not, how will this not just be, in effect, splitting the UCP vote come the next election?
Well, that's an excellent question, Andrew. And I guess I'd have to say, the question is splitting the vote. Are you standing up for Alberta, or are you standing up for Ottawa? And when you look at the NDP and the UCP, they're very much standing with Ottawa. And what we're actually doing is standing up for Alberta. And yes, the majority of people that are supporting us are people that have conservative principles and realize that the proper role of government. They want more freedoms, they want their individual rights protected, they want property rights protected. I mean, Jason and Rachel are the same way. They haven't said anything about, you know, the Order in Council on the gun grab. It's not in there. People want a province that's actually going to stand up for their property rights, stand up for their freedoms. And when it comes to COVID and the property, all those things, these two previous governments are failing Albertans. But yes, it's conservative principles that we're based on.
Maxime Bernier had mentioned something in his remarks this weekend that I found quite interesting, which was that the solution to this issue is not going to come from a federal party with an Alberta focus, but rather a provincial party with an Alberta focus. And he was, of course, taking a very direct swipe at the Maverick Party, which has been established at the federal level. And I was curious for your thoughts, because you're going the provincial route. You've been a provincial MLA. You're leading now a provincial party. Why is this something that can't be addressed in the way that the Maverick Party is trying to, by being a federal party pushing an Alberta First mandate?
Well, the question is, do you just want to be a roadblock, or do you actually want to see change? And just with the Maverick Party, their limitations is that they're just going out there to be able to speak up for us. But whether we have 0 people speaking up for us or 20%, under our Constitution, the way things are, it makes no difference, because it's the voting that counts. And whether, Maxine did an excellent job on the Triple E Senate. We're only represented at 6% in the Senate, so it doesn't work for us. If we have equal Senate, we're going to get 10 or 11%. It's still a minority.
Still 90% against you. Yes.
And again, it goes back to a referendum. It doesn't matter whether you get 9% or 49%. You've failed. And so with
the old line from my dad is that close is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yes.
And 10% isn't even close.
No. And again, what Maxine is offering, though, is a solution to radically decentralize Canada, which needs to be done. Central government doesn't work, and what Ontario or Quebec wants isn't what Alberta wants or needs, and it's the same. And so, no, I totally agree with Maxine and the principles that he is governing on and offering to Canadians. Those will work. It's a solution. The Wildrose Independence Party, like we have solutions. We have a major problem with the police force in rural Alberta. RCMP are not able to accomplish what we need. We need to have our own police force with civilian oversight. The pension plan is not working for Albertans. It's costing us money. We could actually enhance the benefits and reduce the premiums if we had a provincial one like Quebec has. So all of these things that our current and past governments are failing on, and we're offering an improved opportunity and quality of life for Albertans with what we're proposing.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is that the Alberta independence movement is about, and I guess that would extend to your party. So I have to ask you, is your party, in your view, are you envisioning a separatist party?
Well, we're the Wildrose Independence Party of Alberta. And it's about independence. And people will argue back and forth, a separatist, independent. We're about independence. It's about putting our house in order, showing Albertans that look, this is what we can do as a government for you, and they can see the benefits of it. And then Albertans will get to decide in a referendum whether they want to be a sovereign nation or part of Canada.
So your view is that independence and separation are not inherently synonymous?
Well, no, like a lot of separatist party, and again, this is what you hear with the Fair Deal panel and everything, is used as a leverage, threaten. We're going to threaten this if we don't get that. And some people, if we don't, like Jason Kenney's thing is if we don't get pipelines, we're going to have a referendum on equalization. And what we're about is actually about independent Alberta that actually has control of our taxation, has control of our environmental act, has control on our immigration, has control, on all aspects of our lives. But right now, the federal intrusion is just killing Alberta, the economy, the future, the hope, our taxation. And so we need to be independent from Ottawa.
Interim leader of the Wildrose Independence Party, Paul Hinman. Paul, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.